So in terms of what is happening in Israel, Hamas fighters, terrorists on the ground in Israel, apparently 5,000 rockets have been fired. It's a large-scale operation launched in response, and there have been responses here in the UK. I'll be asking Annalise Dawes for her response as well. Sunak, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has said, "I am shocked by this morning's attacks by Hamas terrorists against Israeli citizens. Israel has an absolute right to defend itself. We're in contact with Israeli authorities, and British nationals in Israel should follow travel advice." Starmer has said, Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, has said, "I utterly condemn the ongoing attacks on Israel and her citizens. There is no justification for this act of terror, which is being perpetrated by those who seek to undermine any chance for future peace in the region. Israel has a right to defend itself." I also want to play a clip now from the Prime Minister of Israel. That is Benjamin Netanyahu. I will play that in a second. But first of all, let me tell you what Hamas are saying. This is the Hamas military commander of the terrorist group, Mohammed Deif, who has announced the start of a military operation in a broadcast on Hamas media, calling on Palestinians everywhere to fight. He says rockets fired marked the start of Operation Al-Aqsa Storm. According to reports, we've decided to say enough is enough, he has said, as he urged all Palestinians to confront Israel. This is the day of the greatest battle to end the last occupation, he said, adding that 5,000 rockets have been launched into Israel. Israeli media reporting that armed fighters had opened fire on passers-by in the town of Serdot in southern Israel, and footage circulation on social media appearing to show clashes in city streets. Israel's military have told Israelis living around the Gaza Strip to stay in their homes. Do we have the Netanyahu clip? Is that ready to go? Yes, we do. Now, this is in Hebrew, so we're going to hear a little bit from him and then I'll translate. I have the transcription in front of me. This is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So he says, citizens of Israel, we are at war, not in an operation or in rounds, but at war. This morning, Hamas launched a murderous surprise attack against the state of Israel and its citizens. We've been in this since the early morning hours. I convened the heads of the security establishment and ordered, first of all, to clear out communities that have been infiltrated by terrorists. This is currently being carried out. At the same time, I have ordered an extensive mobilization of reserves and the return fire of a magnitude the enemy has not known, says Netanyahu. The enemy will pay an unprecedented price. In the meantime, I call on the citizens of Israel to strictly adhere to the directives of the IDF, that's the Israeli Defense Force, their military, and home front command. We are at war and we will win it, says the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel. Let's go live to Israel now, and we have Jotam Confino, who is a Middle East reporter. Jotam, how are you? Are you safe? What's going on there?
As safe as you can be. I'm currently in the street, and simply...
Whereabouts are you, Jotam?
I'm in Tel Aviv, and I am on the street simply because my apartment doesn't have a bomb shelter, so I need to be able to run to another bomb shelter a little bit away from where I'm standing right now. But as I'm sure you can tell, but there are no people on the streets, absolutely empty, which is very, very odd for a Saturday morning. And of course, it is because the ongoing situation is so dire that people are afraid to leave their homes simply. They are staying indoor, they're watching the TV to get the latest information about this unraveling situation. And people are scared and worried because they don't get enough information from authorities. Normally, when Israel is in a warlike situation with Hamas, the Israeli military is constantly updating the population about what's going on. The military has updated with regards to where the sirens have went off, also what has happened in broad terms, but they haven't commented on two central issues. A hostage situation, apparently, along the Gaza border, with several Israelis having been taken hostage by Hamas, including a soldier, apparently. That's what all the Israeli media are reporting. The military is not confirming it, and it's not talking about it simply because it's a sensitive issue, but it means that people are very worried about what's actually happening now. And if you see civilians being dragged into Gaza, that is a nightmare situation for them, of course, but also for Israel as a country. So a lot of uncertainty, a lot of worrying here, and very few people on the streets, as you can see.
And I wonder just about the sense that 5,000 rockets, we're told, were fired. 22 people died, and we're very sorry to hear that. That is a tragedy. But certainly if 5,000 rockets are fired, presumably you would expect a higher death toll. Do those sums add up, do you think?
It's a good point, but actually it's on the contrary. Israel has been in numerous fights with Hamas where thousands of rockets have been fired and very few people killed, simply because Israel's missile defense system normally shoots down about 95% of those rockets. Obviously, this is a different situation. First of all, we assume that many of the killed people who have been killed have been simply killed by Hamas militants who have gone knocking from door to door in some of the villages that they entered. Some Israelis have also been killed in rocket attacks, but it's a good point. 5,000 rockets, how come, only in quote unquote, only a few people have died from rocket attacks?
Yes, we don't want anybody to die, but it does seem like a low death toll. I would imagine that will go up. So in terms of the lack of information, what could the Israeli authorities be doing better, do you think, to inform people, to make people safe?
First of all, I'm sure that there are security considerations currently in place as to why they aren't informing Israelis about the hostage situation. I assume they don't want people to panic, but people demand an answer. They want to know what's going on, and they want to know what's going on because they hear people going on live TV from the scene saying that their father has been kidnapped by Hamas. So the Israeli authorities have to soon simply tell the public what's happening there. Yeah. They have sent thousands of soldiers down to try and combat the Hamas terrorists, but it's been almost 8 hours now, and the situation isn't over, far from over.
I should say the Israelis have... I should say as well that the Israeli authorities are saying that it's actually 2,500 rockets rather than 5,000. But kidnapping Israeli soldiers, Palestinian Islamic Jihad joining the offensive in Israel as well alongside Hamas. I mean, what are you being told about that, and how worried are people there? Obviously, they're staying off the streets, but they've dealt with a lot of this before.
So the Israeli military is, of course, treating this as a declaration of war. I was on a briefing earlier, and they said that they are launching airstrikes in the Gaza Strip now. And the Security Cabinet is meeting as we speak, which means that Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, and the rest of the Cabinet, they will have to come to some sort of a conclusion as to what they will do now. Will they send in ground troops, or will they stick with airstrikes? But the situation along the border with Hamas terrorists going knocking from door to door to kill people is something that's unprecedented in Israel. And that's why people are furious, and that's why people are staying indoor, even here in Tel Aviv, because they simply don't know actually what's going to happen in the coming hours.
So what happens now, do you think? What happens next?
Look, I wouldn't be surprised if the Israeli government is feeling pressured into launching a wide-scale operation simply with ground troops to get in and to knock as many Hamas members out as possible. The reason why Israel hasn't been doing that since 2014, despite numerous rocket attacks from Gaza, is because they know that it will cost a lot of Israeli soldiers' lives. Every time you go into a very heavily, densely populated area, you will just soldiers will get killed and civilians will get killed. But in this situation, I don't think that Israel has so much of an option, really. Airstrikes clearly haven't deterred Hamas until now, and the Israelis are demanding a response. We hear that in the TV studios. We hear that from people along the Gaza border. They have had enough, is what they're saying.
We're called this an unprecedented incursion, and the scale and organisation of the attack will presumably unnerve the authorities, and that this has happened quickly. Were they taken by surprise?
Absolutely taken by surprise, and they're not denying that. First of all, the fact that they could infiltrate Israel from land, air, and sea is simply unimaginable, that Israel was not aware of it, that Israel didn't have any intelligence indicating that. That's number one. Number two, the fact that they're also launching rockets at the same time, that means that it's a coordinated attack. And Israel is not prepared for that, apparently. We've been told that the Gaza border is heavily secured. Nobody can get in and out, which is true, which has been true up until today. But we can now tell and conclude that Hamas has been preparing this for a long time. How they've entered from the sea and from underground, we still don't know, but it is a huge intelligence failure on the Israeli side.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. That's Jotam Confino there, who is a Middle East reporter. He is in Israel and talking to us about that. Chris in Brighton has been in touch, says Israel has been illegally occupying and killing Palestinians in large numbers for years. To almost total radio silence, the Palestinians fight back in a far smaller fashion, and we get wall-to-wall media coverage and condemnation, also entirely one-sided. There's more to this awful story that needs to be told. Chris, this is always Chris in Brighton there, and all I would say, Chris, is no matter when you report this, no matter how you report this, no matter how much coverage you give to it, how little coverage you give to it, we always, the whole media, not just us at talkTV, everybody gets criticism on this because it is such a nuanced, difficult, important and very, very complicated situation, and there are a lot of people who don't know nearly as much as they need to. I'm probably one of them, although I've been to Israel and I try to understand the country. But when things like this happen, this is unprecedented. The Israeli authorities were taken by surprise here. Hamas are saying enough is enough in terms of what the Israelis have, as they see it, done to their people.